Peace everyone, Unmask here and welcome back to the Pastel tutorial. Today I think is part 5 of the Wawel Castle tutorial or project. And last week, if you remember, we worked on the grass. We focused on getting the texture in the grass, getting the colors and the kind of the lighting effects in the grass. And then we filled in all of the trees. I have a piece of glassine paper here, but filled in all of the trees with just black. And so today we're going to continue on the trees, give them some texture, give them some green, give them some lighting effects, and then that will be pretty much it. That'll probably take a little over an hour or so. So I'm going to get right into it. I have a number of green colors here. May or may not use all of them, but first off I have a brown, 610. I have 3 greens, 585, 570, and 560. So those are the greens I'm going to be using, and then I also have white and black as usual. Hello everyone in the chat. Thank you for coming by. Some new names, I think. I don't know if I've seen you guys in the chat before. Welcome. If you have any questions for me, I am always happy to take on questions, so don't hesitate to ask. I'm going to start with the brown 610 here, and I'm just going to start by kind of breaking up the black that's in the tree, and essentially what I'll be doing is just adding little dots to create a little bit of a leaf-like texture to my trees. So I'm going to do that with the brown. The reason I'm doing it with the brown is just so that there's a little bit of color variation in there besides the black. So I want dark colors, and so I want some of that subtle variation in there. And you can get your trees looking very tree-like with just black and brown here. You know, kind of just putting in brown leaves. And if you want to put in a few little branches, you can kind of put in some of that texture as well. Totally up to you. Oh, thank you, James. I appreciate that. My channel might be a tiny bit underrated, but certainly not underappreciated. So thanks again. I've been saying it for a very, very long time, actually. Way back when, like 6 years ago, when I had maybe 2,000 subscribers or something like that. I was always saying that if I never get even one more subscriber, I'd be perfectly happy, because the subscribers that I do have are the best subscribers that I could ever ask for. Oh, good morning, Sneaks. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Tuesday so far, and I hope you had a nice weekend. We had some very, very nice weather here in Poland, so I was excited about that. Switching colors now, switching to the dark green 585. And by the way, if you happen to not see this project beforehand, I am working on Clairefontaine Pastel Matte, and I'm using the Carbothello pastel pencils. And then for the background and the water, I used soft pastels, and if I'm not mistaken, which ones? I think I used the Schminke pastels, but I can't really recommend those ones. I'm not a huge fan of them. Now this dark green, it's not going to show up a whole lot on the black, but you're going to start noticing the trees getting lighter. And the reason I did the base color in black is because it's a lot easier to kind of bring light into them than it is to try to do the opposite, try to bring the shadows into them. I always feel like the trees look more natural if you put the light colors on top of the black, as opposed to the other way around. And this way you have a little bit more control over the light that the trees have on them, since you're working with essentially a shadow of a tree or just a silhouette of a tree. Any color that you add to it is just going to lighten it more and more. Oh, thank you, Amy. From Idaho. That's cool. I don't know if I've had many subscribers from Idaho. So, welcome. I'm glad you're here. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to ask them, or happy to answer them. Yeah, any technical question that you guys might have regarding this project or just art in general, um, I I don't hold anything back. So any tip or trick or anything that I can share with you guys that you are interested in, I am more than happy to share that with you. I don't think there's anything real secretive about my style or my technique, and I'm happy to explain it as explicitly as I possibly can so that you understand it and all of that. I always freely share as much as I can, and I never hold anything back. I don't keep any secrets in. So, all right. So now with that green, I'm going to switch to the slightly lighter green, the 570. This is I'm going to start focusing this where some of the light is hitting the tree, and there's actually two trees. Well, there's kind of three trees, but so this part of the tree is in the back, and then this tree here is in the front, like right in front of this light. And kind of the top part of this has a bit more light on it. So I'm going to highlight the top of that front tree to just kind of separate it a little bit from the tree in the back. And I am just doing little tiny dots. I'm not trying to like draw the shape of perfect leaves or anything like that. Because of how small the details are, you can get away with just doing little dots, and you'll convince the viewer that it's a tree. They won't zoom in there with a microscope and complain that your leaves are just dots. I can assure you of that. A lot of the real secrets to getting something to look real is actually just learning how to create the illusion of what it is you want it to look like. It's not really about drawing every individual leaf or even drawing anything that looks like a leaf. Alright, I'm going to switch to the light green, almost yellow 560, and just give this tree a few really bright highlights, just on a few areas of it, just right around the edge there. And then I'm going to switch back to that brown, and I'm going to give it, I don't really see much of a tree trunk because the light post in front of it, but I'm just going to give it a little trunk right there. You can barely see it. You probably can't even see it on camera, but you can see it in person a little bit, and I think it just grounds the tree in reality a bit more. And let's see, I'm going to switch back to the 585. Give this tree here just a little bit more green. I'm going to keep it relatively dark, since it kind of just hides in the back there. Not a whole lot going on with that tree. Alright, time to slide my paper over, glassine paper. Slide the project over so you guys can see better. And now I'm just going to work on this bunch of trees here. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. Oh, good morning, Wendy. Yes, everything is going quite well for me. Good morning from Puerto Rico. Oh well, welcome Angela. Glad to have you. All right, so same process. I'm going to start with the 610, the brown, and I'm just going to give this tree some brown leaves in there. And like I said, this color doesn't show up a lot, and it really doesn't show up on camera because it is so subtle. But it does give it a really good foundation of texture, which is important. The more texture, the more detailed the tree is going to appear. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of the brown. I'll try not to miss any of your questions in the chat. If I happen to miss your question, feel free to ask it again, because sometimes I just get a little focused in my work and I forget to look up at the chat, but I do my best. First time? Well, welcome. Pascal? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Welcome. I'm glad you're able to make it to a live stream. Happy to have you. Oh, hey there, Anna. Good to see you as well. All right, now I'm going to switch to the 585. Start bringing in some of the green to the tree. This is a slow process, so for anyone that might be following along on this project, just take your time with the trees. The more time you spend on them, the better they're going to look. Also, try not to cover too much of the black. The more black you cover, the brighter the trees are going to look overall. And the trees in the reference photo are very dark, which is just another reason I started with black as the base coat. Some of you may have noticed that I started today's live stream about a half hour early than what was originally scheduled. Sometimes when I get set up, I don't like to wait. If I'm all set up ready to stream, I don't like to sit around and wait. So I just start streaming. So hopefully that doesn't bother anybody. I was just ready to get started, that's all. I know these trees, they're not the most, what's the word I'm looking for? The most exciting part of the project, but you know, if you have nice trees, then the overall landscape's going to look much better. So you can't rush these things. New to pastels, what is your favorite medium to use? Pastel, pencil, or paint? Great question, James. I imagine there's a few of you in the chat that might be able to answer James's question, but my all-time favorite medium is oil paint. So that's my absolute favorite. I don't have a lot of space in my studio, if I can even call it that. to do painting, but if I did, I would probably do a little bit more oil painting. I haven't done really any oil painting on my channel. That would be something that would be fun to do, to live stream oil painting. Although it's a very slow process. I don't use any of the accelerators in my paint. I like them to just dry really slowly and just have all the time in the world to blend them and just do like 100 layers of paint and just get it real thick. And yeah, oil paint is just my all-time favorite. If you've never oil painted before, you are missing out on one of the best mediums ever, because it's just so fun. It's very messy. It can be very messy, but I find it to be the most rewarding, I think. There's just something about it. Just something about it that makes it so wonderful to do. Oh, hey there, Shiny. Good to see you. Yeah, there's usually somebody, one or two of you, waiting for the stream to start like an hour before it's supposed to start. So yeah, at least one or two of you is catching the very beginning. And I try to let the music and the thumbnail just sit there for about 10 seconds before I get on camera and actually start. So if you hear the music, you know it's going to be starting soon. I'm going to move this over a little bit further. I have the edge of this tree that's really green. So what are some of the projects that all of you are working on? I know many of you are sometimes you just tune in and listen while you're working on your own creations. But yeah, if you don't mind, take a second to let everybody know what you're working on, where they can see your work. Feel free to post your Instagram tag or whatever it's called in the chat if people want to check out your work. I can certainly recommend checking out Artista 365 and Fine Art Anne. They both are exceptional artists, and you can check out their Instagram and see their work. Alright, time to bring in the bright green, the 560 for the bright highlights now. But yeah, if you care to share your Instagram, by all means. Do I give live tutorials in the evening? I do not. I do offer one-on-one lessons through my Patreon page, and those will sometimes be in my evenings. I live stream I live stream at 1500 my time, which for most of the United States is always like in the morning between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. And then, of course, quite a bit later for anybody that's to the east of me. But I 1500 has been like the best time. It's just been the best way for me to accommodate as many people as possible. I've tried different times. I've tried like really, really early in my morning, and I've tried later in my evenings, and those times never work out really, not as much, anyways. Yes, shiny. So you must have missed the first initial stream or the post on Facebook, but so given the circumstances around the world right now, I decided to do all of my Patreon live streams publicly. So usually these projects and these detailed tutorials are for my patrons. They're still for my patrons. They have access to the reference photo and the color charts and all of that stuff, the line art and everything that I do. And given the global circumstances, I decided to do all of my live streams publicly so that people have something to watch. And so every Tuesday and Thursday is when I stream. That was always my schedule on Patreon, and so that's what's going to be my public schedule for the foreseeable future until the world kind of goes back to normal, I suppose. And so every Tuesday and Thursday, Tuesdays are pastels, Thursdays are colored pencils. And that's what's been going on so far for the past 2 weeks now. Hopefully I did not miss anybody's question. Drawing designs on lunch bags. Oh, that sounds cool. So that would be like cloth. Would that be a cloth, like a tote kind of thing? Yes, oil paint is can be quite expensive, especially if you're like working on larger paintings and whatnot. And I exclusively paint on panel. I don't like working on canvas, and so uh, buying pre-made panels can be pretty expensive as well. I'm using some white now in the tree to brighten up like the really, really bright spots where like the light is hitting the trees. So just in a few spots am I using white. All right, let's I'm going to add a little bit more of the light green, the 570 up here. I just want a few more little bits of texture showing up. There, I think that's good. Now I'm just going to slide over a little bit more. Need to move my reference photo. Oh, how did I miss that tree? Wow, there's a big tree right here. I'm gonna have to do that after. All right, now going back to the brown, time to just use the 610 brown, create a little bit of texture in the trees before adding the brighter greens. Oh, brown paper bags? Oh, that's interesting, Shiny. Working on a card for Mother's Day. Oh, that's nice. That reminds me, I have to make a card for my wife. Her birthday's coming up in about 2 weeks, and we have a tradition that we we make each other's birthday cards. We've been doing that since we met. So we have a collection of handmade birthday cards that we do every year for each other, and then we also do these things called blob stories, and essentially it's a 3x3 comic strip of these characters that I created. Well, it's really just character, a blob, and I made up this thing Blob really really long time ago, and essentially it's just a blob that represents anybody that you want it to represent. It's the same blob over and over again, but the context of the story tells you who it is. And yeah, so we've created these blob stories, and so we have like years and years of essentially 3x3 comic strips of these blob stories, and it always has to do with things that have like little short stories of things that have happened within the year, like of so every everything from the day after your birthday leading up to your birthday, and so each row is usually like a small snippet of a story. What brand is the masking film? The brand is Frisket. So Frisket masking film is what I use for what I used here. So you can see how clean the lines are around the castle and all of that. I used masking film for that, and that was just the Frisket masking film. Yeah, I really like doing the handmade cards and blob stories. That's what we call them. We call them blob stories. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see the brown in the trees. I can assure you that it's not that my lighting is dark. I have the same lighting every single time. It's that the colors and everything are so dark. I mean, I if I bring my lamp closer, like that's my lamp right on top of it. Um, that's yeah, it's too much. That's too much light. So I just have my lamp over here. Yeah, I mentioned maybe before you came into the stream, Anna, that you're not gonna really see these dark colors over top of the black because they're so close in value to one another. Oh, thank you, Ron, and welcome to the live stream. I didn't see you come into the chat, so welcome to the live stream. I'm glad you like my clouds. Now that having that light in my eyes messed my eyes up, and they're struggling to adjust now. Because even in person, I can barely see the difference right away in these colors because they're so dark in value. But the small subtlety in the shadows is really important. All right, now switching to the brighter green, the 570. Time to give this tree a little bit of character. Absolutely, Marcelo. My pleasure. Welcome. Good to see you in the live stream. I'm glad that you appreciate the tutorials and everything. I could probably add a few extra colors to my trees. I feel like, I don't know, like a yellow ochre would be a nice color to add to the leaves. I don't have my extra pencils handy. I suppose if I remember later on during the polishing stage, perhaps I'll add a little bit of yellow ochre or something to to some of the leaves in the trees. That is an interesting combination for a sandwich there, Shiny. Alright, let's give this tree a little bit of highlights with the 560 now. Just kind of brighten up right around this light here. And then I'll use a touch of white also. Oh, thank you, Simukanga. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly, but either way, I do appreciate it. Thank you. All right, let's add a little bit of white right there in the brightest part of the tree. All right, just slide over a little bit more. We're just getting right through all of these trees. My tape doesn't want to stick anymore. I'm gonna get a fresh piece of tape here. There we go. I have so much pastel dust over my little board here. I use a separate board. It's like where did I get this? I got this out of a package. I don't even know. Something was shipped. Something was shipped to me, and it had like this. It's like really thick cardboard. It's like really really dense, super compressed cardboard or something, and it's super stiff. And I use that to tape my pastel painting down onto. That way it's not stuck to my desk and I can just move it whenever I'm not working on it. By the way, did I see your comment on the Druid project? Some info that might be useful to you related to art supplies in Poland. If not, never mind. No, I don't know if I did see that comment. Uh, for some reason, I don't know what YouTube does with comments anymore. Uh, I get like I get notifications for comments, but not every comment. I don't know how they determine whether or not I get notified for it, but when you guys comment on my videos and stuff, sometimes I will get a notification for it, other times I won't, and I don't know what, yeah, I don't know what controls that. I never changed any settings or anything like that. I think it might have something to do with the volume of comments that my channel gets overall, because I have a lot of videos, and the funny part is, like, I have a lot of public videos on YouTube, but I have like 400 or 500 non-public videos on YouTube, and so it's just, yeah, it's just a lot of videos, and I think I think once you get so many comments, YouTube just kind of like self filters whether or not you get notified for them or something. Added the Institute to audiobook. Oh, okay. The Institute was a good, yeah, it was good. It was a fun story. It was very interesting and an intriguing story. I don't think you'll regret listening to it. Yeah, it was a good book. It was my first Stephen King book that I had ever read. But yeah, it was a good story. It was a fun story. I haven't been reading lately. 100% of my time off stream has been playing chess, actually. Yesterday I played chess I played it for 9.5 hours straight. And then, and then I played a couple games before I went to sleep. And then today I played it for like 6 hours or something like that before streaming, and then once I get off the stream, I'll probably be playing some more. Um, but yeah, I haven't been reading a lot. I did finish the first collection of stories of the Witcher series. I have all of the books, but I haven't been reading them consistently. I have the second book sitting here, but I haven't even opened it yet. I just kind of got burnt out on it, I guess. I don't know. I've just been so focused on getting better at chess that I haven't done anything other than play chess in my spare time. How much longer? Oh, you're talking to Shiny. Never mind. Do I use a proportional divider? No, I do not. I've never used a proportional divider. That tool, I mean, it's a perfectly acceptable tool, but it, it's I think it's better suited for like plein air painting or working outside, or working from life. You can work from life a little bit easier using that. So if you have like a still life setup, you can use a proportional divider to help you measure things and copy it over to your canvas or whatever. But I've never personally used one. What are Copics? Yes, I do. I do sometimes use Copic markers. Haven't used them in a while, but I have a set behind me here. And yeah, They're markers. Copics, yeah, Copics are just a brand of markers. All right, time to add a little bit of green to my tree here. 585. Copic markers are really nice with colored pencils. Markers and colored pencils go really, really well together. There we go. One of the things, so real quick, what I want to mention, so I'm not just adding dots to my trees in a random haphazard way. I'm creating a little bit of like a curved shape. So kind of almost like clouds on top of the trees, just kind of like curved little lumpy shapes, like cloud-like shapes, and that gives that kind of canopy look to the tree. So that's the pattern in which I'm kind of applying my dots to, give the tree a bit of a three-dimensional shape. And then once you start to create that with the browns and the darker green, you can use your lighter colors to bring out the highlights and bring out those shapes a little bit more, and just define where the highlights are, or just the brighter parts of the tree in general. So I wanted to clarify that so you didn't think that I was just putting dots randomly all over the tree. There is a specific kind of technical approach that I'm going when I'm applying my dots. Are you seeing the difference? Hopefully you're seeing the changes. That is, why is that so, that looks so much darker on my screen. I'll try to, I'll move my light like a tiny bit closer. It's so, I don't know, for me it looks really, really dark on my monitor, but on my camera it doesn't look nearly that dark. So hopefully it's not that bad. So when you work with the dark colors, it can be a little tricky to get like the lighting just right, so that it somewhat appears good on the stream. That's one of the things that has been driving me so crazy with the live streaming, is that I can never get the picture on the live stream to look like what it looks like in person. And seeing those subtle color changes, I think, would be so helpful otherwise. Maybe one day I'll get like a really professional setup, but for now, we're just going to kind of have to suffer through, and hopefully it doesn't look too bad. Have problems sketching a photo onto your paper? Can a proportional divider help with that? Yes, absolutely. A proportional divider, if you use a photo and a proportional divider, you can measure things and kind of just quickly sketch out the dimensions and the proportions, proportional divider, uh, onto your paper. It's still gonna require quite a bit of drawing skills and knowledge, but with a bit of practice, I think that you can do that really efficiently. Another skill that I think would be even better than a proportional divider is learning the grid method. That would be probably better in the long run, because the gridding method is going to get, the gridding method is kind of doing the same thing a proportional divider is going to do, but it's going to be more efficient, I think. Once you have the grid drawn out, you can kind of use that as essentially you're going to use it as a proportional divider to just sketch everything in a bit quicker. But I don't know. It's hard to say. If you get good enough at using the proportional divider, odds are you'll probably get really quick at using it. So could kind of go both ways. All right, I'm gonna fill in. I'm gonna put in a little bit of black here. There's this tree that covers most of the building right here. And I don't know why I didn't fill it in. Maybe I didn't want to fill it in with a lot of black. So I'm going to use my black just to do kind of a light base coat, because it's much brighter of a tree, but I still need those deep shadows. So that's why I'm using the black. And it's much darker up here at the top, so I'm going to use a bit more of the black at the top and kind of fade it as it goes down, not use as much of the black. And I want some of those tree twigs and leaves and stuff kind of up into the sky a bit, so I don't want it to be like a smooth top here. I need it to kind of go into the sky a little bit. So I'll just kind of darken this up, give the tree a little bit of a shadow here, mostly up at the top, kind of there, maybe a little bit darker right here, a little bit darker on this side, and then up here at the top. Just kind of darken that. There, so something like that. So pretty much completely covered up here, and then not so covered down at the middle part. Recommend a cheap marker for $30. Honestly, what I would recommend is getting the one of the gray sets of the Copic markers. So the Copic markers, they have like this set of 10 where it's like cool gray, warm gray, and neutral gray. I would probably go with the warm gray. I think the warm gray is really nice. It looks really nice. And if you're wanting to get good at markers, you're going to have to spend money on something that works. I've used a lot of different markers, and the reality is, just in comparison to the Copics, they're just not worth it. I've seen a lot of reviews of different markers in the past, and a lot of people will, they'll say good things about them, and I've tried them, and I don't believe what they say. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've used them, and they, I don't know. I guess maybe it works for their particular art style, but they never worked for mine. And I would say that the best markers, or like the when I first got markers, I got Copic markers. I got the set of 10 warm gray, I think. It was either warm gray or neutral gray, I can't remember. But those 10 gray markers were amazing. And yeah, I didn't add color to my work, but I was able to get like really nice shadows, get really smooth results, and I was able to get the best of the markers, even though it was monochromatic. It was still really great. It teaches you, you get to get used to them. You know how they work and all of that. You get to find good paper, yeah, all of that. And you're just not going to get that with any other marker, unfortunately. At least not from my experience, anyway. All right, let's add some of the dark green to the tree, and I'm going to cover up the white here a little bit. So just kind of cover that, and then add some of the texture up at the top with my dots. Do I ever use watercolor pencils? No, I do not. I have a set of watercolor pencils, and I have tried using them multiple times, but I'm just not a fan. I just don't like the way they look. All right, a little bit brighter green now. And this tree has a bit different texture than the other trees, so I have to kind of adjust the way that I create the light so that I get that unique look to it. It has like this really weird billowing effect. Kind of looks like a cloud of smoke or something. Why is my channel name Unmask Art? That is a good question that it's been a while since I've gotten that question. So there's a few reasons why I go by Unmask Art and why I chose that name for my YouTube channel / persona, I guess. And it kind of has three-ish type meanings. The first and more obvious meaning is the way that I use tape with my artwork. I love using masking tape, and especially when I'm painting, it's my favorite tool to use when painting. And so that's the first part. And that kind of leads into the second. It's kind of a two-part, one part. So the reason I use masking tape, or the reason I think I use masking tape, I credit to my dad, because my dad was an auto body mechanic, and so he was always painting and fixing up cars. And so I grew up with, a bunch of cars, and all the time. I was always around them, and I was always around as a kid wanting to help my dad work on cars. And pretty much from the age of probably 6 or 7, he taught me how to tape cars off the right way for them to be painted. And it's a very meticulous job, and you do it correctly or you don't do it at all, basically, is the way my dad sees everything in life. And so he taught me how to do it correctly. And as I said, it's very meticulous. It's not easy to do. It's truly an art form, just taping a car. And yeah, so I was taught by the best, and I have always enjoyed those sharp, clean lines and all of that, and so I use it, and I've always used it in painting, and I use it a lot in painting, and it's just, yeah, it's just something that has always stuck with me. And when I think of painting, I immediately think of what am I going to tape off? Like that's like the first thing that I always think of when I'm getting ready to paint is what am I taping off, and what is the route that I'm going to take to paint it, and so that's like part two of part one of why I got the name. The third and final part is a bit more personal, and that's because I've always had a really difficult time making friends, and I'm not very social at all. And when I started doing art again, I watched YouTube, and I came across a lot of the time lapses, people drawing and painting and making time lapse videos of it, and I just loved watching the time lapses. I just really liked watching the artwork come together in the span of minutes, and knowing that it took them hours or days to do, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to make time lapses of my artwork, and so that's when I decided to start my YouTube channel. And so the third reason of why I called it Unmask Art is because, like, I wanted to kind of reveal a little bit of myself, I suppose, because I've always had a bit of social anxiety, and I struggle with that a lot, and so it was kind of my way to like push myself outside of my comfort zone a bit, be a little bit more social, even though I'm probably the most antisocial YouTuber. Um, I, yeah, just, yeah. So that's the third and final reason. Do I know Jason Morgan? I don't personally know him, but I'm familiar with his work. I'm familiar with his channel. Jason Morgan, myself, and Lisa from Lockery Fine Art, we've been kind of familiar with each other for many years now. I would consider Lisa a friend, really. We've had many conversations with one another, and all of that. And she was a huge inspiration when I started my YouTube channel. She's been around longer than I have on YouTube, and it's been really great having her support with my channel throughout the years. And yeah. Which type of paper is the best for pastels? The best paper is pastel matte. I I've tried other papers. Pastel matte is certainly one of the best. There is a new paper that came out at the end of last year called Lux Archival, made by Aliona Nicholson. That paper is also really great. I haven't actually checked on the availability of it. I know she had a lot of orders. She's been sold out for I don't even know how long. But comment, question, or anything like that, I apologize. It's really easy for me to get lost in all the words on chat. Oh, I'm glad you liked my long hair. Yeah, I had to get rid of it though. Oh, Chrissy's going to try out that Lux Archival. That's cool. All right, let's move on to these trees here now. And I'm just gonna throw in some texture with the brown. These trees are really, really dark in this area, so I'm just going to kind of make them look however I want them to look. After this little bundle of trees here, I just have off to the side, I have like, I don't know, 5 or 6 more trees to do. The Derwent, so the Derwent pastel pencils, I'm not a huge fan of. I find them incredibly difficult to sharpen, if not next to impossible. But I mean, they're usable. They're just not my go-to pencil. I have the full set of the Derwent pencils, and I honestly I don't know if there's been an art supply other than acrylic ink that I have been more disappointed in. Yeah, I would say my worst experiences, I would probably say that my worst experience is acrylic ink. Then second would be the Derwent pastel pencils, and then third would be the Faber-Castell watercolor pencils. I don't even know the name of them, but yeah, those are my most regrettable purchases, because I think I have the full set of the pastel pens, or the both the pastel pencils and the watercolor pencils, and just between those two, that's like $500, and I don't even use them. They just sit there, essentially completely brand new. Oh, hey there, Sergio. Yeah, better late than never. I'm glad you were able to pop in. Fantastic job on that portrait, by the way. Yeah, that came out really, really nice. I love the highlights. Yeah, the highlights um, just look fantastic. Really, really well done. Yes, I use Carvathello for my tutorials because they are, personally, I find them to be the best choice for a budget, because you can get the full set of them for about $1 per pencil, which is really, really a good deal. In the world of pencils, $1 per pencil is not bad at all. And the Carvathello have a fantastic color selection. They're easy to blend. They're much easier to sharpen than the Derwent pencils. Far easier to sharpen. All right, let's add some green to these trees now. No, I've done a lot with the Albert Duris or whatever. I don't know how to pronounce that on it, but yeah, I did I actually used them to do a children's book illustration. I illustrated an entire book with those pencils, and I absolutely hate them. That was many years ago. That was like 5 years ago or something, maybe even longer than 5 years. But yeah, I illustrated an entire book with those pencils, and I yeah, don't like them at all. And I thought about it. I tested them out last year again. I tried to use them a couple times last year as well, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so awful. And not in the same way, not in the same way that I felt about polychromos, because I really like polychromos now. I do. I really like polychromos pencils now. I don't have any hate for them whatsoever, like I used to, because now I understand. I understand how, like, I need to use them personally, how I need to use them to enjoy them. But those watercolor pencils, just the worst things ever made, in my opinion. Just they just don't make any sense at all. I've tried them on several different papers. I've tried like taking my time and layering and blending and layering and blending, and it just, at best, they're only worth doing. They're only worth using for underpaintings of real color pencil work, because I can't think of any reason to ever use them. All right, Sergio. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind if I ever want to pronounce that name correctly. Yeah, absolutely no offense whatsoever to anybody that does like watercolor pencils, but it's just not the medium for me. Yeah, we all have our own personal preferences. It's just I just I don't like the way they look when they dry. Like, even when they dry, they look awful. And from my perspective, I just don't like the way it looks. All right, let's add some highlights to these trees now. Yeah, I suppose maybe if I tried a few different papers with the watercolor pencils, I might my mind might shift on them. But I've tried I've tried a number of papers, like at least 10 different papers, but I have not tried pastel matte. I'm very reluctant to experiment with pastel matte because I spend so much money on it. The last time I bought Pastel mat, it was like $130 or something like that. I use it so often. I try to minimize the amount of excess I use. All right, that looks pretty good. Maybe a tiny bit of extra highlight right here. Oh, thank you, Andrea. Yes, I agree on it. Oh, hey there, Christian. You're up and at 'em, huh? You ready to play some PUBG later? So those of you in the chat, CT Gaming, that's my nephew. That's my nephew and my sister's son, and he he's done some of my Peaceful Pastel series, and I think it was episode 2. It was episode 2 or 3. I can't remember which episode it was, but I shared his Peaceful Pastel painting for the viewer feature. All right, let's slide on over here to the last bit of trees. All right, let's just start with the dark green again. Let's do this itty bitty little tree here. I'm just going to do this one really quick. It doesn't have a lot of highlights on it. So I'm just going to put in a little bit of texture with the light green. And that tree's done. Did I ever work on hot press watercolor paper with colored pencils? Yes, I've worked on several brands of hot press watercolor pencil. In fact, I've never not used hot press watercolor paper because because I despise texture. I don't like texture at all, and the thought of working on cold pressed watercolor paper makes me sick to my stomach. The texture of cold pressed watercolor paper is disgusting, and I don't want anything to do with it. I got a few little tree trunks here. Did I miss the light? I did miss a light, huh? Oh well. There's supposed to be a light there that I didn't put in. I'm going to use this dark brown to just give these trees a bit of form or whatnot. There. Yeah, that's about what I pay Pascal for the pastel mat. Including shipping. I have a pretty good collection of it now in my drawer, but it was painful to pay for. I will texture shame whatever I want, Sergio. I like things to be nice and smooth. So if it has texture, it's because I added it. That's what I allow. Pastel matte, on the other hand, I I give pastel matte a pass, simply because once I apply pastels to it, it's velvety smooth. I'm just kind of going all over these trees here right now with the brown. You're still thinking about the 9 hours of chess? Yeah, yeah. Well, it was like 9.5 hours of chess, like straight. Yeah. And then I played for like 6 hours today already. I play a lot of chess. You'd think I'd be better at it, but I'm really not. I'm actually it's quite disappointing how not good at chess I am. Try try to get better and better, but it's slow. Oh, it's so slow to get good at chess. It is painstakingly slow. I wish I would have started playing chess like 20 years ago. I would have never I never gave it much of a thought when I was younger. And I just what as soon as you learn how complex the game the game is, because you don't you I think chess is way too much associated with checkers. Like those two games are not even remotely close together. They just play on very similar boards, and that is it. Other than that, the complexity in chess is what makes it so much fun, and just some basic understanding of the game makes it so entertaining. What would I recommend for painting surface for acrylic oil painting? Smooth surface to paint. What are your thoughts about using plywood, gesso over it? That is exactly what I use on it. I use plywood paneling with a smooth surface. I even with the smooth surface, I gesso it and then I sand it with like 400 to 600 grit sandpaper. So it's as far as a painting surface goes, it is one of the smoothest painting surfaces you can use. And then I just use an acrylic gesso, give it a nice sand to get a nice even smooth texture, and then I'll go like one or two routes. Either I'll leave it white, or I'll use a wash and do like an acrylic wash on it to give it a little bit of a tint or whatnot, depending on what I'm painting. And once I have the tint, then I tape the entire thing off. I just take strips of tape it from one side to the other, and then just tape the entire thing off. I draw whatever I'm going to draw onto the tape, and then I use an X-Acto knife. I cut it out, and then paint over it. And sometimes I'll, yeah, do other tricky things with the paint and the tape, but for the most part, that's how it goes. That's how I do it. Yeah, I don't like using painting on canvas. The texture of canvas again is just disgusting. I don't like it at all. Wood panel is so much better to paint on. Christian, you're such a goofball. All right, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my lighter green and start adding in some of the highlights into the trees. Yeah, sometimes the scent of oil paint can get to you. It's never bothered me. I've always kind of worked in a larger space when I oil paint, but there has been there has been times where it's kind of annoyed me a little bit, but I enjoy oil painting so much that it's never come close to stopping me. Almost done. So I probably spend about 10, 15 more minutes on these trees. So if you guys have any last questions for me, don't wait too long to ask them, because before you know it, the stream will be over. But I hope that so far you guys have enjoyed the live stream. I appreciate the questions and you coming by and hanging out. It's always it's always a good it's always a good Tuesday when I get to spend it with you guys. So thank you for that. No, this is Pastel Matte that I'm working on right now. Absolutely, Sneaks. My pleasure. Maybe, maybe Sergio. I wouldn't mind doing a sculpture. I'd have to check my clay to see if it is still pliable at the moment. I haven't touched it in a long time. It could possibly not be any good. Although I know that that super sculpey clay that I bought, it has a really long shelf life. I mean, it doesn't. I think you can use softener to make it more workable or whatnot if it sits for a while. Is there a possibility that I can chat or ask comment help when it is not live? Yes, absolutely. I mean, you can always, after the live stream is complete, it just turns into a normal YouTube video. And so you can always comment on it afterwards if you have questions or whatnot. And I try to get to everybody's questions when they ask them. But as I was explaining earlier, YouTube is not YouTube is not ideal for responding to all the comments and questions simply because the volume of comments that my channel gets, it's really hard to see everybody's comment. But if you have other questions, you can always join the Facebook family, the Unmask family Facebook group, and there's a lot of lovely artists in there that can answer a lot of your questions as well. So if you have any questions, you can always post them there. Yeah, these trees are coming together. I'm going to switch back to the darker green. Kind of smooth out some of these leaves here. Yeah, I would be down to do another sculpting stream. Nugget is sculpted, so I won't have that same issue again. I don't know. I'd have to figure out what I'd sculpt. I think that's why I haven't sculpted anything because I wasn't sure what to even attempt to do. It's unfortunate that that was the best stream ever. I was really hoping that there was another stream of all the streams that I've done that topped that one, but I guess it's just going to go down in infamy as the best stream I've ever done. All right, these trees look pretty good, I think. Not too bad. When you're working on your trees, if you find them to be a little bit grainy from the pencil, you can just tap them with your finger or tap them with a blender, and that will get rid of that graininess from the pencil, because I know that can be a little artificial looking. It can kind of make the trees look a little artificial. So you can just tap them with your finger and it will push that pigment into the paper a little bit and just give it a more of a like a softer look. So that is going to be it for the trees. So next week, actually I have some stairs here in the grass that I kind of want to fill in. So I'll fill those in. So Thursday, I'll be streaming on Thursday. By the way, just want to make sure everybody knows that. And then next week we'll finish. We probably won't finish this project, but next week we'll actually be able to start the castle. I'm just using a little bit of black and white here to put in the stairs, give them some texture really quick, and then I'm going to call it a day. So thank you again, everyone, for coming by and hanging out. Really, really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe. I saw a lot of new names in the chat today, so that was really great. Be sure you have notifications turned on because I'm going to be streaming again on Thursday. So I don't want you to miss Thursday's stream. We'll continue our fantasy colored pencil druid project. That's what we're working on. And yeah, so I got some stairs there. Next week we'll start on the castle. I can zoom out. So there's what the painting looks like right now in its entirety. And yeah, anyways, you guys have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday, and I'll see you on Thursday. Take care. Peace.